All right, today we are going deep inside a single CIA operation, one that all came down to a single man on a rooftop in Pakistan. And believe me, this was a mission that would go on to define the war on terror.
That's the thought, right there, racing through CIA officer John Kiriaku's mind. It's the night of March 28, 2002. He's on a rooftop in Pakistan, and he is about to lead a raid that has absolutely zero room for error.
So who was the target? Well, it was Abu Zubaydah, al-Qaeda's number 3 guy. This was one of the key planners of the 9/11 attacks, and the CIA, they wanted him alive.
But just think about this for a second. How do you find one of the world's most wanted men in a sea of 21 million people? It's insane. For weeks, all Kiriaku's team had were these tiny little fragments of intelligence. It was like a puzzle with almost all of the pieces missing.
So the team had to turn all that chaos into a concrete plan. And get this, an analyst named Rick literally taped a giant piece of butcher paper to a wall and just started drawing a spider web, linking every single fragment of intel they had to Zubaydah. After a week of this, that web pointed to 14 active locations. There was only one option, right? You got to raid them all at the exact same time.
Okay, so it's 2 a.m. The op begins, and almost immediately, everything falls apart. Of course. Communications just go dead. The walkie-talkie is silent. And then, gunfire erupts.
In all that confusion, they find their man, or at least they think they do. He's been shot multiple times, but Kiriaku is looking at him, and he's skeptical. Something's off. This guy is like 40 pounds heavier than the photos, his hair is wild, it just doesn't look like Zubaydah. So headquarters comes up with this really clever solution. They tell him, hey, get me a close-up of his ear. His ear! You know, it turns out the human ear is almost as unique as a fingerprint. Who knew, right? It's a nearly foolproof way to identify somebody. So Kiriaku snaps a photo with his cell phone, sends it off. A minute later, the call comes back. The confirmation from CIA headquarters is just one single word. It's him. And just like that, cheers are up back at Langley. The news goes straight to the president. They got him.
I mean, what a moment, right? It just captures the absolute intensity of this mission. But it really makes you wonder, what kind of person ends up leading a raid like this? Who exactly was John Kiriaku?
Well, you might think his journey started in the Special Forces or something, right? Nope. It actually began in a small town in Pennsylvania, all fueled by this really powerful curiosity about the world.
As a kid, he literally built a radio room in his house. Can you picture that? He's putting pins in a world map for every single foreign station he could pick up. That fascination is what led him to study the Middle East in college, right there in Washington, D.C. And the thing to remember here is that none of this was planned. It was a professor of his, a former CIA officer, who saw something in him and made one single phone call. And that one phone call kicked off this incredibly intense vetting process. I mean, this wasn't just any job interview. He had to name every single country on a completely blank world map, pass a massive global affairs test, and then undergo this super extensive psychological screening.
And that psychological interview, wow, it wasn't about getting the right or wrong answer. They'd ask you things like this. Have you ever betrayed a friendship? To really understand your core ethical compass. See, they weren't looking for a perfect person. They were looking for someone who actually understood the weight of their actions. So he passes, he makes it in and joins the CIA, but as an analyst. That means a desk job at Langley, writing intelligence reports about Iraq. And after a few years of that, you can imagine, he got restless. He wanted to be out there in the field. So he volunteers for the Directorate of Operations, which is a huge shift. He's trading a life of just assessing information for a life of actually shaping it. He was leaving the world of predicting what might happen for the world of making things happen. And look, this wasn't some simple transfer to another department. This meant starting all over again. He had to go to the farm, you know, the agency's legendary secret training ground, to learn the skills of a covert operative completely from scratch. And when I say from scratch, I really mean it. Get this. In a class of 25 trainees, most of them are ex-military, right? Kiriaku was the only one who had never even fired a weapon before. Not once. But here's the crazy part. The desk analyst from Pennsylvania, he discovers this hidden talent he never knew he had. He doesn't just learn to shoot, he graduates at the very top of his class in marksmanship. And not just that, he excelled in hand-to-hand combat and even counter-terrorist driving. But you know,
All that flashy stuff wasn't even the most important part. The real, nitty-gritty core of his new job was what they call tradecraft. It's this meticulous four-step process for recruiting foreign agents. You spot a potential asset, you assess their vulnerabilities, you develop a relationship to build trust, and then you make the pitch. You recruit them. That is the fundamental work of a case officer.
And so this whole transformation, right, from the kid with the shortwave radio to the desk analyst to this highly trained operative, that's what put him on that rooftop in Pakistan. That's what made him ready for a moment where failure just was not an option.
And I think that's the real takeaway here. The man leading the raid on Zubaydah wasn't some kind of pre-made action hero you see in the movies. He was the product of a long, grueling process. A process that literally forged him into exactly what that mission required.
And that really just highlights the reality of this kind of work. Like his former colleague Bruce Riedel wrote, "This isn't a movie. This is a dangerous business with very real stakes and very real human consequences."
So Kyriaku's story, it really peels back the curtain on this clandestine world, right? It takes us way beyond the Hollywood stereotypes. And it forces us to ask, what does it truly take to do this work? And maybe more importantly, what is the ultimate cost for the people who choose to live a life in the shadows?